which is not the biggest waste stream, but it is the most complicated waste stream. Somehow my remote has taken a lunch break as well. Let's see. No. Where is page? Oh. All right. Oh. Well. Yes. All right. Back in business. Right. Municipal waste management is a responsibility of the municipality. Historically, as I mentioned earlier, it was driven by the need for hygiene and public health. But today, municipal waste management is driven by the desire for resource management. So we want to separately collect as much as we can and try to diminish the amounts of residual waste. This has become more and more a regional approach, where municipalities are working together in larger areas in the policy and collection of household waste. And as we see an increase in different schemes for producer responsibility, in fact, the management of municipal waste has become a more hybrid responsibility, where municipalities are responsible for the organization and the financing of residual waste, bio-waste, bulky waste, and where producers are responsible at least for the financing of packaging waste, of textile, of paper and cardboard, of electronic waste. But the collection of all these waste streams, which are managed by producers, is taken care of by the municipality. So they reach an agreement. The municipality takes care of the total management of municipal waste. They finance only the residual waste, the bio-waste, and the bulky waste. They organize it all. So every municipality has the possibility to raise a tax to its citizens for the management of municipal waste, and that covers these costs. And the producer responsibility scheme finances the rest. Well, at least in theory. In practice, we see that some of the money that should be raised here is shortcoming and will be paid by municipalities as well. Right, the traditional Dutch waste management system looks a bit like this. Every household has two bins, one for residual waste and one for organic waste. Municipalities are obliged to separately collect organic waste and paper and cardboard and plastics and textiles. All these waste streams, they have to organize in separate collection. So usually you have two big bins, one for bio-waste, one for residual waste, and every other week you roll out one bin. This morning, before I left off to Utrecht, I put out my green bin. Next week, the grey bin, residual waste bin. Paper, glass, and textiles are often used in public containers on the street, and also for packaging, you can find them as well. And other municipalities have a curbside collection. And then every municipality has to have a bulky waste recycling centre. And at the recycling centre, the waste is separated into different waste streams. And this is a bit what it looks like. It's the collection of residual waste, traditional system, emptying of underground container systems. Most municipalities have moved from the above ground containers to underground containers, which have a far bigger capacity and it looks much better on the streets. And this is a collection of bins in a rural area where you can see that the collection is robotized. Recycling center. Every recycling center in the Netherlands has to offer 80 different waste separation possibilities. You have to have this. It's in the law. Yeah. You receive a copy of the presentation so you can read it all at home. Asbestos, yes.
And what is by law obligated to separate in the household itself?
Bio waste, packaging waste, paper and cardboard, textile, glass, metals. Am I forgetting something?
You can deliver that all into a household to someone who's collecting.
Well, most municipalities will have a collection system for a mixed collection system for packaging. So they collect packaging together with metal packaging, plastic packaging, and Tetra Paks. That's the mixed stream, which is sorted. There will be a collection system for paper and cardboard. There will be a collection system for textiles. And for residual waste. Those are the biggest streams that originate from households, which are all separately collected. And most municipalities will try to steer the public to the recycling center for the bulky waste. Of course, every municipality also needs to have a way to have it collected at your house. But most of them will try to steer you to a recycling center because there you will have much better possibilities to separate the different waste streams. Right. Our separation rate, we started most of the separate collection in 1993 when it became obligated for municipalities to have a collection system for bio-waste. And since then, many municipalities invested in their collection scheme, and today we are somewhere around 60% separation of household waste. Separation does not necessarily mean recycling. Separation means that 60% of the household waste is collected separately from the residual waste. Then it will be transported to a recycling center. Well, as you certainly know, at the recycling process, you will also lose a certain amount of what you have collected. Not everything will actually be recycled. But municipalities don't know how much is lost during the recycling operation, so they are monitoring the separation rate.
So you have a regulation for the municipalities to sort waste.
Yes.
Is there any enforcement?
If they don't do the segregation from the source, from the house.
There is a possibility to do that, but all our municipalities take care of the separate collection.
Because yes, you have this regulation and
I see Arno saying, well, is that completely true? Yes.
The four biggest cities,
There are exemptions. There are exemptions. Certainly for the separate collection of bio-waste.
So is there any incentives if the household
Not separate.
doesn't do the separation? In the households, maybe?
For the household,
Yes, for the households.
Yeah.
municipalities may they have the possibility to enforce it, yes.
How?
But for instance, if the that's difficult. There are two different ways to enforce.
Organic.
Some municipalities will check if you roll out your organic waste bin, for instance, if it is truly organic waste, if it's not polluted with other waste. If it is, they will usually say, well, we don't collect this because it's not bio waste.
They
we
will
don't
leave
collect
it.
Or they can even fine.
Yeah.
Hardly any municipality will do that because it's politically incorrect.
But there are some municipalities who have a fee system that's only based on remaining waste.
I will come to that.
Yeah.
That is actually the most
But the municipality is the private sector, yeah.
No, most municipalities organize the waste collection themselves,
Oh, okay.
not through the private sector.
Oh.
It's about 75–80%.
except the commercial waste. So the commercial waste
Yeah.
is done by private.
Sorry. So who is the operator of the recycling centers?
That's the municipality.
The municipality?
Yes.
Oh, not the private sector? Maybe.
Well, they can engage the private sector, but it's their responsibility to have
Municipality
it.
itu siapa sih?
And in most
Lingkungan
cases, they
hidup.
manage it. But they can also
Municipality
contract
itu
with
siapa?
private
Kota-kota,
contractors to do
city-city.
for.
Yang ngurus
So it's the obligation of
Municipality
each
itu
municipality to
siapa?
have.
kota-kota,
Yes.
city-city.
Yes, at least
DLH.
one.
Iya.
DLH
Iya,
kan?
iya.
I'll skip this, you can look it up.
DLH itu under Pemda.
Iya.
If you look at the waste tax, that was a question I had during the break. Average waste tax in the Netherlands, the average waste tax that every household pays is around €280 a year.
287 euro per year. Taxnya.
Municipalities have different ways of implementing the tax. They can have a flat fee structure, every household
287 itu
pays
uangnya berapa?
same rate.
5 juta.
And he will say, no, if you have a single person or two-person household, you pay less. If you have more persons, you pay more. And there are also municipalities which have a tax which is based on the amount of waste that you offer. If you offer more waste, you pay more tax. That's a very strong incentive to separate your waste, because only the residual waste is taxed. The separated waste, recyclables, are usually not taxed.
But then you have to take care of the quality of the separated waste.
Yes, of course.
Actually, if you have, for instance, if you make a system, like you say, you offer so many residual waste into the amount you pay, and people are trying to put as much residual waste in the, for instance, green waste. So you have to check on green waste, if that is really green waste and not any residual waste, and then they get a fine for that.
So if you want to have a differentiated tax, there are different ways to implement it. You can either have a fee per kilogram. You can have a fee for the size of the bin. If you have a small bin, you pay less. If you have a big bin, you pay more. You can have a fee for the frequency. Every time you roll out your bin, you pay. Or combinations of all these.
What would you prefer to the Netherlands? Because we have all these systems, but would it have been better, I see, for instance, for Indonesia, to have one system or?
Well, that's a big discussion these days in the Netherlands, because every municipality decides themselves on how they organize the waste collection. So in Utrecht, it can be different from Amsterdam, and there are differences, and there's a discussion on should we have one model. Well, I don't believe that we should have one national model because all the municipalities differ. But that doesn't mean that you should have, well, some municipalities are trying the most strange combinations, and well, you don't always want that either.
But from a point of view of a market, if you have certain separate ways offered into it, if you have these alteration from I'm going to do it now and I'm not going to do it tomorrow again, then the market would actually have very difficulties in receiving these waste. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. And if you have a steady, say, one system or something, you have a steady amount of waste that the market can handle. Actually, and that would be for the market maybe more feasible. But it's not the system that we have. But it's just a consideration. If you have a more generated way of offering the waste, you have a more generated amount of waste that can be brought to the market for further processing. Well, we never thought about that, but it's something for Indonesia maybe to think about. It really
More standardized.
get more standardized collection.
Personally, I haven't heard any questions from the market that this is a problem to them, but it could be, of course, I don't know.
Well, the consumers, if this is about education and
Yes.
to create awareness, sometimes they are confused. They travel from one municipality to another and they have different systems. So that's
Well, I think
consumer
most,
is,
I think the most important is that you communicate which types of waste you have to separate, and that message that is important should be the same everywhere. And it hasn't been in the Netherlands. Let's be fair, and it should be, because then it's complicated. I don't believe that it's very complicated that in Utrecht the frequency of the collection is different
No.
from another city.
but one example in the Netherlands, it's really mandatory that you separate the organic waste from the rest. Because with the rest, if it's not contaminated with organic waste,
Yeah.
it's much easier to recycle.
Yes, yes.
So I think from the perspective of Indonesia, it's very important that there will be one system in the whole Indonesia where you at least
Yeah,
separate organic.
organic and unorganic. Yeah.
Yes, because separating the organic waste, you have an easier way of
Yes.
handling the other waste as well.
Mm.
Because the organic is complicating the processing of, for instance, plastics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think in Indonesia still, I think you need to work through a very good collection system itself.
Yeah.
Because the collection system itself is not really there.
Yes, yes.
In front of many houses, you still
Yeah.
have, that they burn it and they have there. So
Yeah.
this is already way ahead of.
Yeah, because I think the house who burn it, but because they don't want to pay the collection fee.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the small region, they prefer to burn it. It's very easy for them. Because
And you
also,
don't want that.
Hmm?
No, it's
Of course you don't.
uncontrolled incineration of waste, and that's the most pollutive way.
No, but if you have your infrastructure here with your green one and the brown one,
Yeah.
and one bin is already probably €100 or something. I don't know how much one bin is. But that infrastructure that will take a long way to have it. Everybody have their own bin in Indonesia.
Especially in rural areas.
yeah, the rural area is the challenge. Yeah.
Also in Bali is a problem.
Yeah, in Bali,
And Bali also a problem. This moment is
it's not
when the collecting is mixed
It's not
waste
the-
is 70-80%
Itu, Pak,
is
tapi-
organic.
mereka
Yes.
pakai jurang di belakang
Yes.
rumah
Yeah.
buat
Yeah.
nyemplungin
So the biggest
sampah-sampahnya.
change that you can make is when you have a separate collection and treatment of
Masih
organic
lumayan
waste,
kok
because that
dimasukin
is
tong
the
sampah
bulk
kok
of your
ditaruh
waste
jurang
stream.
itu.
Yeah.
Itu yang
If
tadi
you
saya
are
kasih.
able to get that out,
Well, a landfill, I think, is about 60% organic.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think in the Netherlands, what is it, less than
Zero.
1%.
it's zero.
Yeah.
It's illegal to landfill organic waste in the Netherlands. It's illegal.
Oh, illegal for even organic.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Organic and all recyclable waste.
No, I'm.
Put it in the landfill is private.
Oh yeah, oh mix yeah. But if just organic,
You cannot.
also cannot.
No. No, you can't landfill. No.
Oh.
It has to go to a treatment facility. It will be composted or digested.
Hmm.
So we have a lot of composting and fermentation plants.
But the issue of the burning landfills is because there's so much organic,
Yes.
Yeah.
organic waste.
Yeah.
It has happened in Indonesia now. Different landfills is burning the last 1 month, 2 months.
But organic waste doesn't really burn.
No, the method does.
It's mostly water.
Yeah, methane.
Not the water, but the methane yeah.
Methane.
Yes.
Methane,
Yeah.
But at the same time, causes problems in the Netherlands is also the batteries.
Oh.
The batteries can also
Yeah.
inflame
Explode.
the,
Yeah.
the landfills and so on.
Yes.
Right.
But in our landfill is the cigarette from the scavenger.
Scavengers.
The driver as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was the traditional waste management system. Now, the last part of my presentation is about how municipalities are moving more into circular economy and trying to change their waste management systems. Now, if I look at the discussion here, this might be way beyond your perspective now, but this is what we're working on. From a linear economy to a circular economy. And that means that you're looking at a much bigger picture. You're looking at resource management rather than waste management. This is waste management. End of life management of materials. That's my field of expertise. But if you want to move into a circular economy thinking, you have to take the whole chain into account of production, consumption, and end of life. Right. The ambition of the Netherlands when it concerns municipal waste is to reach a separate collection of 75% and a maximum of 100 kilograms residual waste per inhabitant. And in 2022, which was the latest figure, that was 183, which was already a major achievement because only a few years earlier it was 250. We're also want to halve the amount of waste going to final treatment, and as mentioned earlier, in 2050 we want to have a full circular economy. Well, in order to achieve these goals, a special program was designed from waste to resource. It's now part of the national plan for the circular economy, and it attacks all the different change in the production, use, and recycling phase. I won't dwell on this too much. But for all these, all kind of different programs have been set up to tackle this. If we go back to residual waste, well, we were in around the year 2000 at about 300 kilograms of residual waste, and the ambition was to go to 100. In 2020, now we're living in 2023, so did we get there? No, we didn't. But we have managed to get a fairly sharp decrease. COVID hit us here. That was bad luck because everybody stayed at home, and we saw a sharp increase again in the amount of municipal waste, but we're back on track. On the path to a reduction of residual waste. Now, from a Dutch perspective, this is, 100 kilograms is really ambitious. But if you look at what is in residual waste bin, you can see that the potential is enormous. The organic waste is more than 1/3 is still in residual waste. Most of which is kitchen waste, food waste. Most people will put their garden waste in the green bin, but still the kitchen waste, much of that goes into residual waste. Paper and cardboard is also 20%, plastics 12%. The actual residual waste is only 12%. So the potential is enormous. Municipalities basically have three ways of incentivizing the public to separate their waste. One is financial incentives based on the fee structures. If you implement a tax based on the amount of waste that you produce, you will see that citizens will separate their waste much better. Service incentives. In our original waste management structure, we offered a lot of service for the collection of what we didn't want to have, residual waste. You could always get rid of that easily, and you had to make an effort to get rid of recyclables. So if you change your service for different waste streams, you can also steer what you get. And of course, communication is vital. And these days, many municipalities are not just communicating with letters and billboards and leaflets, but actually many municipalities will have teams of waste coaches, for instance, who patrol the streets wearing a high visibility jacket, waste coach, and they will talk to the audience, they will talk to the people, and they will help them to separate their waste. And this is not that they patrol every street in the Netherlands, but especially when you change your system, this is really helpful. And once the system is implemented and everyone is used to how it works, you can have that less. Right. Pay as you throw, mentioned already, a tax based on the amount of waste that you produce. About 50% of the municipalities are using this now, and it's increasing every year. The purple areas on the map, those are the municipalities that have a pay as you throw system.
And very interesting that in the east they
Yes.
have it, and in the west they don't.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
And that probably also has to do with the density of population.
And with the behavior of people.
Well, I'm not sure, but pay as you throw is easier to implement in rural areas,
Yeah.
and it's more difficult to implement in cities.
Could you, just for my sake, pay as you throw, explain it a little bit more?
It means that the waste management tax that you pay to your municipality is based on the amount of waste that you produce.
Okay, so, but the measuring of it, because if I go to my parents' street, everybody just brings that bin out. How do they measure how much you?
That depends. That can be either on the kilograms. In that case, there will be a weighing system implemented on the truck. The bin will have an identification, So every time the bin is emptied, okay, this is your bin, and I can see, okay, this was 50 kilograms. Well, this is not the most common system. Most common system is based on volume and frequency, where you pay a fixed fee based on the size of the bin. So a small bin is cheaper than a big bin. And on top of that, you pay a flexible fee, which is based on the frequency that you offer it for collection.
Sometimes you have a card per household.
Yeah.
And you bring residual waste to a specific bin, and you can only open it with your card. So
Yeah.
that's registered, and then they can weigh it, etc. So that's also.
But if you have a collective system with underground containers, for instance, then it will work on a similar basis.
It's still, maybe you have an answer for it, maybe not, it's still strange because you have, of course, the three major cities in the green area, let's say.
Yeah.
You have a lot of small cities there too.
Yes.
So why are they not purple like in the rest of the Netherlands or something?
Well, I don't know. What you do often see is that it is contagious, meaning that if a municipality starts doing it, the neighboring municipalities are incentivized to do the same. There's also a very clear reason for that, because if only one municipality has it, some citizens will try to offer their waste in the neighboring city, which doesn't have the system.
Oh, bisa gitu ya.
So we do see that municipalities have implemented pay-as-you-throw in the years after. The surrounding municipalities say, oh, we see that they have good results in separation. We see that they have a low tax. And we have a problem with the citizens that try to avoid the tax. So why not do the same? Well, like I said, it is a model which is slowly but surely progressing. Every year we see new municipalities implementing it. It used to be only in rural municipalities, but also smaller and bigger cities are implementing it. Only the big cities like Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Utrecht, well, you don't see it in these major cities, but actually every other municipality has proven to be able to implement and manage it.
Maybe for the sake of our friends here, the size of municipalities, because let's say in Indonesia, a city of 300,000 is small.
Yes.
In the Netherlands, a city of 300,000 is very big. Yeah, so
we don't have any city over a million people. The biggest city, I think Amsterdam is now 900,000. Yeah.
So when you talk about small municipalities, if you take, for example, the city of Drachten in Friesland, well, maybe like 60,000 people.
Yes, that could be. Yeah. So that is a different scale.
I would just say that maybe it's behavior then or something that makes the separation so clear.
I don't have a valid explanation. I have thoughts, but nothing. It's also politically. Every municipality decides for itself what they do. So it's also very much a political decision. Right. I have some examples for you of how different municipalities have played with these three ways to incentivize their citizens to separate waste. This is an example of a city which has increased service level So for instance, they collect organic waste not every 2 weeks, but every week. They collect, they have a separate collection system for books, electronic waste, and textile. And they have a collection system for diapers. Because if you really separate your waste well, you will see that in your residual waste, diapers become prominent.
Yeah.
This particular municipality has been able to decrease the amount of waste to 86 kilograms per inhabitant per year. Now, for the Netherlands, that is an impressive result. Another example of a municipality which has decreased the frequency for residual waste. Usually it's offered you can have it collected every other week. This municipality only has a monthly collection, once a month. And on top of that it's charged with a special tax. The rest is more or less standard. And they have gone down to 72 kilograms. So decreasing your service for residual waste in the Dutch context already has significant results. I'm not sure that will work for Indonesia, but it surely worked there. And one last collection is the conversed collection system, which is based on the idea that you should only provide service for the things that you want. So you have 3 bins at home, one for plastic and packaging, one for paper and cardboard, and one for organic waste. There is no bin for residual waste.
And so the bin is provided by the municipal?
Yes, the bin is provided by the municipality.
Not by hospital?
No, that's all part of your waste tax. So for these 280 kilograms, you get a bin, you get a collection, and you get the treatment.
And you pay tax.
That's what you get for the tax. Residual waste you have to bring to a container somewhere in your neighborhood. And other recyclables you can bring somewhere in your district to a separate facility, usually around supermarkets. And of course you can also charge residual waste which is being brought to the container. And at this particular municipality gone down to 62 kilograms of residual waste. So that's far better than the 180 that the average municipality produces. On top of that, and you will see that this afternoon, some municipalities are offering mechanical separation after collection. So the residual waste which is collected in these municipalities is run through a plant which tries to post-separate a number of materials, and especially for metals this is fairly easy, and also plastic packaging you can sort out through a mechanical sorting separation system. You will also get organic waste which you can still use for digestion, but you can't use it to produce compost because it will be too much polluted by the rest of the waste. Right, and like I said, well, communication is much more coaching than communication. And if you look at the cost effectiveness of these different strategies, we are benchmarking municipalities, or actually they voluntarily engage into benchmarking to compare the results of the different municipalities, and in this benchmark also the different waste strategies are benchmarked. And what you can see here is, well, the cost of waste management varying from 120 to 200 euros per household per year, and the amount of residual waste. And you can see that municipalities that have no strategy whatsoever, they have the highest cost and the highest amount of waste. What we also see is that the best results are achieved by municipalities that use a form of pay-as-you-throw, a form of tax based on the amount of waste that you produce. Either combined with frequency reduction, either combined, either just flat pay-as-you-throw, or combined with conversion action. And that is a very, well, we see that every year. Municipalities that use pay-as-you-throw, they have the lowest amount of waste and they have the lowest cost. And of course there is a connection because, well, if you have a lot of residual waste, you pay the highest treatment cost. Right.
So
Well,
does that mean that 140 euros, that's all, that's roughly the amount of tax they pay?
yes. No, this is the cost. Sorry, the cost is not the same as the tax. Because the waste management cost is the cost of operation for the collection and the bins and the treatment, but it does not include the cost of the civil servants at the town hall. And for instance, it does not cover the cost of, every municipality has the possibility to exempt citizens from paying the tax. And in fact, every municipality uses that. Because if you have people with a low income, you will exempt them from taxes. And again, this is a political decision. Some municipalities do it more than others. And of course, if you have the possibility to exempt many of your inhabitants from the tax, well, it doesn't influence your cost, but it does influence your tax. Because the other citizens will have to pay more tax.
So do you know how much you roughly pay per year tax on this?
I know roughly what I pay, but that's a very interesting question. Because there is a lot of political debate when a municipality needs to increase the waste tax. That's a very difficult political decision. But if you ask any citizen in the Netherlands what they pay, hardly anybody knows. I think I pay around 180, but I'm not sure per year.
180 euro.
I'm not sure, but hardly anyone knows.
Especially because what you get from the municipality is a combination of local taxes. So it's about your house tax, your water tax, and your municipal waste tax, which you get together. So that's why it's sometimes also low. I don't know it either.
Then again, do you know your total tax?
Yeah.
I think it's about 500 per year.
Oh, I come to live in your city.
No, but if you suppose it's 200 euros.
Yeah.
So if we go to the equivalent of Indonesia in rupiah, you would talk about 3.5 million
Per year.
per year. But for an incredible service that you get.
It's not that expensive.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be expensive.
But the main question is how to organize it.
Yes.
And sometimes I have the feeling that if you want to introduce this kind of systems, you need to think big, because to make it an efficient logistical process, you need to have large facilities to make it cheaper
Yeah.
per household.
Yes, yes, yes.
And well, actually, what I see with the TPS VR systems, etc., or the waste banks, it's much too small.
Yeah.
You have to think bigger
Yes.
on solutions.
That's why the cost too high to operate the small system.
And prevent waste collection only for the valuable ones. So
Yes,
most
yes,
waste
yes,
collectors
yes.
in
Just
the
take the
streets are looking
valuable.
for the plastic bins and the
Yeah,
plastic
yeah.
bottles. But that are the easiest ones to
Yeah,
to
yeah,
recycle.
yeah.
So you should collect all the materials.
I think waste bag is the
Tapi 3,5 juta kalau disuruh bayar ke masyarakat yang di kampung-kampung tuh ya mereka teriak lah. Iya kan? 3,5 juta setahun, mereka gajinya aja sebulan cuma 1-2 juta. Iya kan? Untuk kota-kota besar oke lah.
But if you look historically, did the Netherlands also have a very high organic waste component like 40 years ago?
Well, still,
Until
Yes.
now.
Still very high.
Oh,
But I mean, that's processed. It doesn't go to landfill. So
yeah.
I mean, in Indonesia, the landfill 60% is still organic,
yeah.
and I think that would be an incredible change if that would not go to landfill.
Yeah.
But what was the turning point for the Netherlands for that not to go to landfill but to composting? I don't think actually it will ever have been Netherlands since it's
Part of the obligation, it was only, as he showed it, that in 5 years it would be obligated, and within that time, all municipalities went over to separate collection of organics, because they had to await, they didn't want to wait for the last moment. In the 5 years, they successfully added up. It was only concluded in 2 years.
And I think there was a second component, that's changing from landfills to incineration plants. It's very inefficient to incinerate organic waste.
Yes, yes,
And
yes. It
you
took a
have
lot of
problems
energy.
with all the water you have to
Yes.
to burn.
Very expensive.
But also it's
So-
landfill.
For the energy.
It's a waste of space if you landfill organic waste.
Yeah.
Landfill space is very valuable.
And
So-
you can compost waste, organic waste, if you separate it at source.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can use it for improvement of your soil, or so there are a lot of opportunities with the organic waste to give it a new life. And so I think, well, organic waste you can create much easier sort of return on investment than other streams of waste.
Our organic waste is transferred into compost and it's being sold to the agricultural sector. And there's a high demand for it because it's a good quality product. They get a good price for the compost. In fact,
Tapi milahnya dari rumah itu loh yang
there is
jadi
more demand
yang jadi masalah.
than we can produce.
But I think that's one element. That's one element in the whole process from waste management to circular economy, is that we are looking now much more to the quality of the output of recycling, and the quality of the output of every step.
Yeah, but
So it's about plastics, it's about organics, it's about metals or paper. It's about getting the highest quality possible, because then you can have create a demand pool where you force the industry to take up the recycled content in their but it's only possible if the quality of the recycled materials is very high.
Yeah.
So it's about quality thinking as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
The better the quality, the better the results.
Yes.
So what happened the municipalities if they not follow the obligations? So
They are put to the mercy of those two people here.
because in Indonesia we have like creational regulation about the solid waste, but to ensure the municipality follow that, that's the
Well, there is
challenge.
an environmental enforcement by our regional inspectors, environmental inspectors. They look at also the results of the different municipalities, so they benchmark and they can enforce the regulations.
So what happened? You can give the
Kena
example.
gakung. Di Indonesia kena gakung.
No.
No mayor has been sent to jail yet.
Not yet. Not yet, yeah.
Offering waste or whatever, fines.
You can, you
Fines.
can.
But to the municipality, I think well, the first thing is that what happens if the municipalities are not doing what they are supposed to do because of national regulations, the minister will call the mayor. And often that helps, so we are, well, maybe also a very law-abiding country. But I think that there are several levels of what you can do. And if the compliance of regulations is very low, then you have to be much more tough in your sanctions. Well, that's something also a political discussion, I think, what to do. First, you have to, and that's about changing behavior. It's always peers in your country should say how important it is to you. So it's about your presence. It's about maybe famous people to also in the general public who say how important it is. It's about your neighbors doing the right thing.
But it's also very much about making sure that the economic incentive is right. So we ensured that the final treatment of waste can compete with the separate collection and recycling. So there is no economical driver to avoid the separate collection schemes, because the final treatment is at least as expensive or even more expensive.
Yes, the final treatment is landfill and incineration.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when in 1993 it became obligated to separate organic waste and non-waste. Most municipalities easily engaged into that because the prices for waste to energy were increasing and the space for landfill was scarce. A separate collection of organic waste, it was easy to carry out. The composting process is cheap, and you produce a valuable product. So that was actually quite easy. I think we are moving into lunch, which is fantastic.